Lights out, we're underway. Motorsport Republica podcast.
Boys!
Here we are.
We're back.
Happy Australia Day, boys.
Happy Australia Day.
Hey?
Australia Day.
How good's this, huh?
26th of January.
Just like that, eh?
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a bit to run through. Another week in motorsport. Hamilton in a Ferrari. Looked very strange, didn't it, Mark?
Thanks for the short call-up. I'm happy to be here again. Thanks, guys.
No worries. No worries. Thanks for filling in. Appreciate it.
No, it's good. What do you guys think of the iconic photo of Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari?
Well,
Get up.
The yellow helmet was the moment. I thought, like, he always goes for something different, but he's gone back to his original, unique sort of way with his helmet there. Because every time they had a photo up of when he went to Mercedes, he made it yellow again. And some people said it was just a test helmet, but I think he's going with that.
Interesting.
That's his.
Is test helmets that common in F1?
No, not really. But yeah, it was just, there was a small article saying as much that not convinced it's actually going to be his race helmet. But I think he's gone with the yellow. He's got the yellow logo with the Ferrari emblem, and that's the look.
I guess it wouldn't, like, a driver's helmet isn't as big as a rider's helmet because it's not like, a rider's helmet you can wrap it while you're riding, but you're not going to wear Hamilton's helmet when you're driving your car to Woolworths.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Or Costco for our Ohio listeners.
We've got a few Ohio listeners.
In North Carolina.
It's interesting, that photo of Hamilton in front of Enzo Ferrari's house. And what I saw was 7 windows and 1 door to that World Championship.
Do you reckon they meant to do that?
I don't think so. I think it was a synonym.
Did you just have an aneurysm?
Say that again, Tom.
It's like Worcestershire sauce.
Cinnamon, as in donut.
No, me.
Strawberry for him, Mop.
Strawberry. Yeah, it was interesting. And he looked like a bloody clown with that big thing. But then I saw Schumacher with the same outfit get up all those years ago in 99.
96.
96, so he had 4 years, of course.
Yeah.
4 years. That's what people don't remember about Schumacher. He had 4 hard years at Ferrari before winning a championship.
Yeah.
The thing he just walked up and won.
So he won one before Ferrari, though,
2.
didn't he?
He won 94, 95 Benetton.
Gotcha. So, and then what engines were they running?
They had Renault engines.
Okay.
At first they had the Ford engine. So in 94, he had the Ford engine and won the championship with the Ford engine.
Yeah.
This is obviously because Senna died and all that happened. And then in 95, they got the Renault engine.
So he won the title when Senna died that year.
That was it.
Yeah.
Was his
I
first
never
year.
knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a young gun.
Every time I think of Michael Schumacher, and I've watched the doco and I've completely forgotten, I always think of like the early 2000s. I never think of mid-90s.
Because of the Ferrari, because
yeah.
of what we did in those 5 straight years and the way he won those titles, some people have forgotten about that little period where he actually won his first 2 championships.
Back to back?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And then they went from a Ford engine to a Renault engine the next year?
So again, 94, he had the Ford engine, and then Benetton got the deal. I think because Senna had died, this was a new up-and-coming star, and Renault were like, well, let's put some focus here as well, because the deal was exclusive that Williams had the Renault engines.
Williams.
Yeah, it was Williams, Renault, and at the time, that Renault was like the Mercedes of the last 7 years.
Yeah.
The engine that Renault had at that time was just crazy. It was just so far in front of everyone else. So Honda pulled out end of 92, hence why Senna had a Ford engine in 93. It was a customer engine. And then halfway through the season, they ended up getting the same spec as what the Benetton had. And then into 94, Senna went to Williams because Prost. So they won 92, 93 championships, Williams, with Mansell and then Prost. And then Prost retired because Senna was coming over. But then Senna dies. And then later there's that 94 unfolds, and this championship between Hill and Schumacher was coming to its head there. There was a couple of strange things going on. They black flagged Schumacher at Silverstone for overtaking Hill on the warm-up lap. So they were trying to make the championship close. And it actually got down to that last race in Adelaide, as you remember, with the crash there. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, it's very famous.
But
turned in on
as that year, towards the end of that year, it was announced that now Benetton were going to get the Renault engines that Williams had.
Yeah.
So that's when he won that title. And then he left. He could have won in 96. He could have won 3 straight titles. He
Who raced for Benetton in '96?
No, it was him. In '96, it was Berger and Alesi because
Yeah.
they'd come from Ferrari. So they got sacked from Ferrari. Well, to make way for the shoe, they both got the flick. So they were both Ferrari drivers in '95. This is Berger and Alesi. And then Shoe comes in, wants a different driver, none of those two, and they'd be a bit past it anyway. And then they both managed to go to Benetton because Briatore is running the show still there. And so they just went straight to Benetton. And everybody thought they'd be competitive. They've got the most current car, but they were nowhere.
Mm.
And that just showed how good he was. And the weird thing, the back end of that is that he tested the 95 car. This is Schumacher. So Lewis was in the 23 car the other day doing those laps. When the Shoe jumped in for his first test, he jumped in the year before car because the 96 car hadn't sort of come out yet. And it was the V12. And he said, and a lot of people said at the time, that he would have won the 95 championship had he been in that car. Mm. That's how good that 95
So they went to
Ferrari.
V10s. They went to V10s in '96.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
so there was some were still running V12s and V10s at
95.
the same time.
Up until
that's right.
95.
Yeah, because Ferrari always ran the V12 up until they could.
Up until they
'Cause
could.
that was there.
So that was Enzo. That was all Enzo.
Who won the championship in Schumacher's first year at Ferrari?
Damon Hill.
Damon Hill.
Yeah.
So this is when Villeneuve came over. So there was this thing going on. So Villeneuve was groomed to drive for Ferrari because of his old man, right? Gilles Villeneuve. This is before our time, your time, a bit my time. Yeah, there's legendary Gilles Villeneuve in the 70s, and he died in the Ferrari. This is the other thing to it. This stigma to his name and the brand that he died in a Ferrari, and so. He had a son who was racing in Indy cars. This is Jacques Villeneuve. And everybody along those lines, he's going to be a Ferrari driver one day. And as soon as Schumacher went there, that was it. It was never going to happen because Schumacher started forming his own thing, became successful, became his own mark in the sense, his own brand. And that was it. Villeneuve got into the Williams. So he took... let me get this right. So 96, Schumacher goes to Ferrari, okay? Hill was already at Williams, okay, with Senna in 94. So now it was Hill and Villeneuve. So this is, I mentioned this the other night, you know, Bernie Ecclestone just straight up plumbed Jacques Villeneuve in the top winning car. Like it was a championship and did like 6,000 kilometres testing. And that's why he was, when he came to Melbourne, I think he got pole position. It was all ready to go for him. But then as the season went on, you know, Hill stepped up a bit, I suppose. And so he won the championship when Schumacher went to Ferrari.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And then when did the Shoe win his championships in
Well,
the
that
late
took 5
90s?
years. You
2000,
2000.
In the Ferrari, 2000 was his first one in
yeah.
Ferrari.
And then he won 7 in a row. Sorry, he won 5 in a row. Yeah.
Gotcha.
2000, 2004.
Because then the McLarens had a run for a year or two, didn't they, in the late
But look,
90s?
those late 90s, like
Hakkinen.
the McLaren of Mika Hakkinen was dominant. The West McLarens, you might remember, and they had an advantage. But the Shoe, I mean, I'll sit here and say it now, the best year he had behind the wheel was 1998. Okay? He didn't win the championship, but for pure driving ability, this is my opinion, obviously, but he was driving every single lap of every single race 11 tenths. It was crazy to watch.
Even going back to the McLarens as well, they should have probably won 2000 and 2001. They were plagued with the reliability. There was that many races they got onto the grid at the start, and then they just
01. So 2000 is when it fell away for them. And this was an engine thing because they were using beryllium. It's an exotic metal.
Sounds exotic.
Yeah, so this is when F1 engines were getting crazy.
Yeah.
Right? They were using these exotic materials, right? Light. And then they banned that material, and that's when Mercedes started going down. It literally coincided because in 2001, Mika started having DNFs, both him and DC. And then in 02, I always remember this, Kimi's first year at McLaren, out of 16 races, he had 11 DNFs.
Shit.
11 DNFs in his first year at McLaren. The car was fast, but just... And then 02, they tried to play catch-up, and this is when McLaren became a joke. They were just... The thing was made out of balsa wood. There was a race there in Germany. Kimi's coming down the front straight, and the rear wing just flies off the car. as he's about to turn in at 200 k's, and the car just pirouettes into the barrier.
yeah,
And I was like, what the hell is this? Sorry, Tom.
Well, there's that famous scene, and it might have been 03 when Kimi conked out in the McLaren and walked back to his yacht.
Yeah.
But that might have been later.
That was later. That was 06 because he was fed up by then. So 03.
No, I don't think it was 06.
It was.
Because he went to Ferrari 07.
That's why he was already fuck you to Ron Dennis. Okay.
So when just going back to the shoe real quick, when he went to Ferrari, were you like, what's he doing? Like, was that a crazy? Was that considered a crazy move back then?
It sort of wasn't, because at the time, it came out later, years later, that there was all this fishy stuff going on with the Benetton. They reckon because they banned all the electronics at the end of '94, end of '93, traction control, this sort of stuff, and people were sort of saying, "No, they're still running it." There was this cloud over the Benetton in '94 and '95 about this illegal traction control, and they were trying to cover it up. And I think he just wanted out. That's how it looked years later, because everyone's like, why is he going now? Like this, he's got the best car. And I'll say it straight, he would have walked 96 with a leg in the air, right? So he could have won 3 championships and then just gone to Ferrari. So it was a surprise that he walked away from that, because in 95 he won there were 16 races. I reckon he won 9 or 10. He dominated that championship in 95. Now that he had the same engine as the Williams, it was no contest. It was like watching Max sort of thing. And then he goes to Ferrari, but they were nowhere. You know, and he won his first race in the wet at Spain. You might remember that. Tom, I don't know if you do, but he...
No, it was Spa, wasn't it?
No, Spain 96. Williams took...
Oh, yes, sorry.
So Williams had this dominant car in 96.
In the Ferrari, you're saying the first win.
Yeah, so his first win in...
His first win
sorry,
for
right,
Benetton was Spa, yeah.
Sorry, mate, you're right.
But his first win in the
He's
Ferrari
talking
was
about Ferrari. But
famous, just torrential rain. And obviously, you know, we all know Formula One, when the rain comes out, it's where the real stars shine.
Yeah.
And it was one of those days, and it was just pissing down. So
he did those hard years at the Ferrari there, and before he got to the success. But
he built the culture there, didn't he? He rebuilt it again.
Well, he brought all the Benetton people over.
Okay.
He brought the designer, brought the engineers, brought Ross Brawn.
Yeah.
You know, so it was. Look, I used to say at the time that Ferrari was just a repaint of Benetton. It was all the same people. And once he won that, once that breakthrough happened in 2000, like he won the next 5 years. And 06 only just missed out, like to Alonso. He went down to the wire, so he could have won 6 in a row. And that was a silly thing. He was forced out, you know, because Kimi was there. Was this? Then the politics started between Montezemolo and John Todd, because there's Montezemolo, who the big guy at Ferrari at the time. He was thinking of the future. Whereas Todd was like, no, we'll just keep the house. All is now with Schumacher. And those two had this massive power trip of a fallout. Well, not fallout, but just... And in the end, Schumacher got screwed. It made no sense for him to retire at the end of 06. It made no sense. No sense. Just...
He
and
famously came back and raced for
this
Mercedes.
Is why I think the 3 years that he was out, he knew he wasn't done. You know,
that's a shame though for one of the greats of the sport.
Look, he would have. I'll say he would have won 07 and 08. Given how those 2 championships, McKimmey and this one, Alonso and Lewis came in, they were tripping over each other for 2 straight years. Those 3 or 4 drivers, Massa as well. Now 8, he just would have walked it.
What was his first year in F1?
Who's this?
Schumacher.
91.
91.
So he came in. The famous story is, I might have said this once before, but. There was a French driver named Bertrand Gachot, and he was driving down the M1 in England, gets pulled over by the police and uses pepper spray on the policeman. So they lock him up. So Eddie Jordan's out of a driver. So he's driving for Jordan F1. This is Eddie Jordan, and he needs a driver for this next race, which happened to be Spa. So he gets on the phone, rings up this guy, Willy Webber, and there was a sports car program that Mercedes had Wendlinger, Schumacher and Fredson. So at the time, Schumacher was a sports car driver, you know, Le Mans type series, right? Yeah, I've got this guy. Yeah, has he driven around Spa? Oh, yeah, he has. Never driven around Spa, all right? So he sold him a dummy by getting him in the car. He did a test at Silverstone the week before, and they couldn't believe how fast he was, like, at this test. They thought, because they used a short circuit at the time at Silverstone, and they thought, no, the witches' hats aren't up because his time's too fast. Because they have this witches' hats on the back straight. And then he turns up to Spa and puts it 7th on the grid on debut. And this is behind Senna, Berger, Prost, Alesi, Patrese, Mansell, the 6 top guys at the time, he was next in line, and then it was just a sensation. Like, who's this kid? You know, he's come out of nowhere and he's putting this car. Then this car was a mid-pack car. This wasn't nowhere near a podium car. And the best thing that happened to him, he burnt the clutch. You know, he didn't have first F1 start. He's coming up Eau Rouge and he had to pull over. But he'd done enough that weekend, and the very next race he was in the Benetton. Crazy. It was just crazy. Like 2 weeks later, he's signed for Benetton. I'm like, hang on, he's just had his first race in a Jordan, and he's in the Benetton at Monza. And then there was a wet race later that year. I think it was that first Spanish Grand Prix, and he showed some talent in the wet there in this midfield. Benetton was a bit better, and then a couple of years later won the championship, and then they went to Ferrari, and as we know, the rest is literally history.
Yeah. What I love about that as well, and we talked about Spa, is his first win was at Spa.
Yeah, 12 months
So
later.
it's the first time he's gone to the second circuit twice.
Yeah.
And he's gone, well, I know this once enough, and then he wins the race. Like, that just shows talent, immense talent. The other thing is yeah, you're right. They make quick decisions sometimes in Formula One. Like, if they can see talent, they make a quick decision straight away. It's like Colapinto to a certain extent. I mean, he's had a couple of good results, and then boom, he's back.
They must see something in the data and everything as well. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what they do.
The story goes that weekend at Spa, when they had the debrief, the other driver was Andre de Cesaris in the other Jordan. And so they're doing the debrief on the Friday, and he's like, I'm coming out of Pouon, which are these corners around the back of the track, coming into Fangs, and the car's sort of jumping out. I have to back off, and Schumacher's like, I'm flat through there. And they're looking at him, and they're, now here's a driver been driving for 3-4 years in this team, or in Formula One in general, maybe longer, and he's telling him what's wrong. It's the best analogy, James. It's like a Costa coming on the KTM.
Yeah.
Everyone thought the KTM was all, and then this kid, what? What are these other two bananas? Oh, shouldn't, whatever. What are these other two? Like, how's this kid just going doing all this stuff, and these guys have been riding this bike for 4 or 5 years? That's the best analogy I can give you. Is the Costa coming to KTM, Schumacher going onto that Jordan, and then the Benetton.
Do you reckon it's I don't want to say a sign of complacency when it's like a driver or a rider where they're just been in the team for too long, and you just need a fresh feeling, a fresh set of eyes to look at something.
It happened. It's 100%.
And I think that's what KTM had to do this year as well.
That is 100% right. Like, back to Formula One in '93, they signed Michael Andretti. Because the previous couple of years, Senna was teammates with Gerhard Berger. He went back to Ferrari. And as the year was going on, Michael Andretti was struggling. He was flying back to America, but he wasn't fully committed to the sport. And then they changed the rules about how many laps you could do on a weekend. So he was up against it. And mid-season, they sacked him at Monza. He just got a podium. And they brought Mika Häkkinen, who was the test driver. So Mika Häkkinen was a test driver for McLaren at the time. And this went around the fact that Senna was only driving race by race, and he was getting $1 million a race. Okay? And he wouldn't commit to the whole year. And this is why Ron Dennis was saying to Mick, look, I need you just there in case he doesn't turn up. You can jump in. Right? And Ron Dennis said, I'll never do this again, because Senna had him at ransom the whole year. Like, I'll do this race. Are you going to? No. And he ended up doing every race, but literally pay the money first, and he's waiting for the facts to come. There's all these stories. It's crazy how that year unfolded from McLaren.
What year was that?
93.
Yeah, right, okay.
And in the meantime, he's winning.
Yeah.
So Senna won 5 races in 93. So Mika Häkkinen comes along, and in his very first race, he out-qualified Ayrton Senna. So that in itself told you 2 things. Like, fuck, who's this kid? Like, nobody out-qualifies Ayrton Senna, especially in their first go. But Senna was a little bit asleep because he'd been back to your point, he'd been so used to this pleb second driver, if you like, needs that bit of a kick up the arse, if that's the word for it. I mean, that's a silly thing to say about Ayrton Senna. It doesn't never need. But
I get what you're saying.
That's back to your point. I'm just giving you a different analogy of a situation where that happened to one of the greats.
Yeah.
And even when I think Montoya teamed up with Kimi, they all said, Kimi will have to dig deeper now. And you're going to see this with Leclerc this year. This is back to this Hamilton-Leclerc thing. You're right. Leclerc is bit of criticism. He makes mistakes in the races. Tom?
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
No, it's his mind. It's his and he's shown that over the last 2 or 3 years. There's those silly mistakes like Azerbaijan putting into the wall in qualifying, and those head-to-head battles. He struggles.
And the thing about Leclerc that gets me, he actually says it. Like he has, you stupid. And I'm like, you're bagging
I am
yourself on
stupid.
world feed.
Yeah.
Like, shut up, mate. Like,
Yeah, he's his own
you're not a
worst
dickhead,
enemy.
but
yeah.
you're making it sound like yourself like a dickhead.
Yeah.
You get it once, you get it
Yeah.
twice, but 3-4 years later, he's still having a go at it. I'm like, mate.
The thing is, look at Verstappen though. I can't actually remember. Probably Saudi Arabia 21. When's he actually made a mistake?
His
he
last
doesn't-
mistake-
He doesn't make mistakes.
So get this. I heard a stat the other day. He hasn't finished outside the points, okay? And this is taking away accidents, right, since 2016 Spa,
Wow.
okay? It's classified outside, yeah. And so that's 8-9 years ago. And now I remember that race at Spa. He came into turn 1, dived bomb and not hit Kimi in the Ferrari.
He did, yeah.
And then coming up at Rouge, he was out because he fucked his front suspension. That's the last time he made a mistake.
Going
And he
back,
was he was 17.
yeah, I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Going back to teammates, what's the? I know there's no rule, but is it better to have, for my analogy, a fierce competitors that are at the top peak of their game, like a Valentino and a Jorge Lorenzo, or is it better to have a Marc Marquez and a Danny Pedrosa?
In F1, the model has been proven. They call it the Schumacher model now. This is what it's called, right? You get one guy. He's your man. And that's Max Verstappen.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
seen how many teammates he's gone through.
Well, same
Yeah,
with
no,
Hamilton with Bottas as well.
Yeah, but
like that's another. Like
yeah,
Bottas was
that's-
just there, and
but
as
that
a
was
whipping boy.
different because they got caught on the hop because Nico turned it up overnight and they were desperate to get a driver because he said, "I'm retired. I won the championship. I'm retiring." Like that was very. They were dirty on him. Nicky Lauda said, "He goes, I'm dirty what he did to us at the time because he just, I'm champion now. I'll just pull the pin." Like literally 2 days after he won that championship, he retired. Because he knew, I'm not going to say he fluked it, but he knew he would never be able to do that effort again against Lewis Hamilton.
I thought that was a boss move.
Good on. Listen,
I love
looking
that.
back now, I
Yeah.
agree with you. At the time, I was like, "What? How weak is this?"
Because Hamilton would just wipe the floor with him the next
And it
year.
would look, and he knew, he
Yeah.
knew that too. So back to your point, and the offset to this Schumacher model is the McLaren one. See, they've brought Piastri in, and now they've got 2 top drivers.
Vying for that top.
And this is the thing. It's
seat.
we spoke about this. It's rattled Lando a bit. It has. Okay, didn't see this coming, didn't expect it, and now, good luck to them. How they're gonna? And we saw last year they made a mess of
Fumbled
it.
it,
They made a mess of it. So many races they just said, "Listen, mate, stay there, move over." Like that attack at Monza, that should not have happened.
Oh, Hungary was just terrible.
Hungary's
Hungary,
another
yeah.
one. Spa, even at Spa,
was laughable,
But at Spa, Lando had to get out the way because Piastri, and to his credit, he dive bombed him. But if Lando doesn't move out the way, they crash.
Yeah,
And they're both out.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to have this problem when you got 2 guys on the same level and it's a winning car. That's why 07 happened because you had Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, the rookie. Alonso thought he was the number 1, got told he was the number 1. Next minute, Lewis is winning races and it's like, what's going on here? And there's Kimi in the background collecting wins, and all of a sudden, McLaren handed that championship. They should no way Kimi should have won that title. But again, it was only because Massa had bad luck at Monza that he dropped out of the running. So then Ferrari had to back Kimi for the rest of that season. So I'm just going back to this 2v1. This is why the other night when you asked about who's going to win it this year, to me it all still points to Max. Because we know it's him. And we all know Lawson's going to get no. We know this.
Oh, I mean, wait and see. I think with Lawson, he could surprise us. You know what was really impressive for me with Lawson when he first, and I know it's little things, but when he first came out, it was the Dutch Grand Prix qualifying. Didn't practice. Came straight into qualifying. It was on a slightly wet track on slicks, and he puts it into Q2.
It was very impressive.
That was good.
And for me, I was like, fuck. Like, I don't think anyone else coming in could do that. Like, that was really, really impressive. And it's those little small things. Like, qualifying is a big thing. You're one-on-one with the car on the track. That's where you show your talent. That's where your Ayrton Senna was so good, and that's where all these other drivers we know were so good.
And that's the thing. Like I saw a clip from Brun the other day. He's saying, Lewis is starting to make little tiny mistakes in qualifying that are costing him.
Qualifying is a big thing for him last year. It was terrible.
Yeah, but this is. I'm saying this is showing.
Yeah.
That's where you lose it. You lose it in quali speed. When a driver loses it's that quali speed, that little half a tenth or a tenth, and that's why there was too much inconsistency or consistently making mistakes. And he was he was pissed off about it, you know. But can you rectify that at 40? Yeah, you're coming off the mountain. Hello, I'll say it again. He's 40, you know. And I think the way he's been driving Alonso, who's now 4 years older, they're making it look like But I'll say it again. These cars are too easy to drive.
Yeah, well, you didn't get that back in the day. Schumacher in 06, how old was he?
He was 35, 36.
Yeah, because it's amazing. That was like the retirement age back then.
It was.
Same as, footy players, we always think 35's like...
You're done.
You're done.
See,
Same as motor racers. Hang on.
Sorry, mate.
So that was a big thing. Nowadays, they can go longer and longer and longer and longer. And as to your point, Mark, is that the cars are very easy to drive.
We saw with Rossi. He went. We can say it now. He went probably 3 years too long.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, I mean, and again, when he was winning, his competition wasn't. You beat what you beat. This is the end of the day. But really, who was he really beating? But when he got to Izmit, had Lorenzo, Pedrosa, Marquez, Stoner.
Casey,
they were that, weren't they? And it's like when Shu came back. Hamilton, Kimi, there were these other drivers now that were, before there was only 3 top drivers and now there was 5 or 6. And to the Shu's credit, he was still good enough to be a top 10 driver after 3 years out, but not a top 2 or 3.
We put it on pole in Monaco that year,
Yeah,
and it was
did.
like...
Yeah. But he had a stupid penalty
I
carried
know,
over
the
from
penalty.
Spain. But
I
then
know.
he DNF'd as it turned out.
Yeah,
It would have been tragedy
True.
if he
True.
he starts the pole leading and then the engine blows up.
But it's amazing. I think Monaco's the biggest equaliser of talent as well. Like, you can really... Like, you looked at Senna over the years, you put it 1-2 seconds sometimes in qualifying ahead of the rest. So
That's huge.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. And I think him putting it on that pole that day, I was like, he's still got it deep down.
Yeah, and back to the launch.
Were you there that day?
No, not there, not at Monaco, that one. But another
on a
time.
boat somewhere.
What year did you go?
I went in 08, I think.
Oh,
I
eight.
went the year-
So Hamilton
He
won
won,
in the rain.
yeah.
In the rain.
He went off like 5 times or something.
Yeah, he won in the rain. And Massa,
That's
I remember.
right. Massa went off at Santa
Yeah.
Vod and because it was raining. It was one of those rare ones, and it made the race. To be honest, like otherwise it would have been processional, like they all are. But the rain, the rain made it. But back to Hamilton, like they something. The F1 Instagram account, like 5 million viewers. They had their record amount. That one post of him standing in front of the Enzo's house there. They got their most ever likes ever.
Did you see what the sponsors made? Each, like HP made 60 grand on the post, and all their other little sponsors were making like 30, 40 grand on that post.
Okay.
Just for having their logo on there.
No way.
Yeah.
So there was a photo of him and John Eklund. That's the
Yeah.
the big boss of.
Oh, I saw this. The shoes.
Yeah.
Go
Go on.
Oh no!
No,
you
go
on. They're famously sponsored by Puma, and he's wearing Adidas shoes. The head of Ferrari. How does that happen? How does a PR person let that happen?
Listen,
Is that
he's the boss of Ferrari, okay?
Yeah, I suppose.
true?
Right?
Is he not Italian though? Is he?
Yeah, is he? No, maybe not. John Eklund doesn't sound. I mean,
Yeah.
that name's not Italian. I really don't know. But
Yeah, he's. I think he might be. I don't know if he's American, but he's not like a European.
What's his name?
John Erkin. EIK.
LAM, is it?
Yeah.
Just put Ferrari CEO. But he's a tall guy. That's the other thing. That's probably the long shot because he's Lewis is and he's very tall. That's why. And then they hang on a minute, and that's what the. Subsequently, they've now cut it from the knee down to cut the Adidas shoes out of the
He's
photo.
an Italian American.
There you go.
Italian American. Okay. What does that mean?
He looks American as.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He looks like the Oz GP CEO a little bit, Travis Ould. How's that look about him?
Yeah, maybe.
But just to see all the fans there and the fog.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
huge.
interesting.
They
The
got there
fog's
like 2
cool.
a.m. and whatever it was. I mean, that's just
Amazing
makes
fans.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching Kim Illman last night. He had put a post up, and it was they went out there. Lewis had his mum and his dad there, which was it was a crazy scene. And then
Well, driving Ferrari, it's a religion. It's It's the heart of Formula One. It's the biggest thing you can
And
do.
look, it's happened now, 3-4 times now. I mean, I go back to when I saw Alain Prost go there. That was a big deal. Like, he'd left McLaren with the championship, so he took the number 1 with him.
Nice.
Because he was fed up with Ayrton Senna, wasn't he?
Well, there was the politics got too much.
Yeah.
They drove in 2 years. They were crashing into each other. It was like, nah, I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so
They were
you
just
go.
the golden years.
That goes back to two big dogs on one team.
Yeah. That was just the golden years of Formula One.
Yeah.
1990 to 94 was just unbelievable. And the stories they talk about those years, I mean, the hatred between Prost and Senna, and then famously Prost, being a pallbearer at the funeral, and it's just
it was
amazing.
very strange. He said once he retired, Senna's attitude just totally changed towards him. He was on the phone to him, and just totally, because that was his totem pole. So Senna's whole career was based on beating Prost. But once Prost retired, it just sort of mellowed towards him, and because he mentioned that over that, so Prost retired in Adelaide. 6 months later, Senna died, and in that period, Senna was ringing him up all the time. Hey, g'day, mate. What's happening? No, I'm not g'day, mate, but just they were talking. Just.
Well, the respect would have to be huge.
It was always
between
there.
them.
The respect was always there. But and that was the whole thing. And there was a video when, because at the time Prost worked for French TV as a commentator, and on his qualifying lap, because of Renault, Senna did a lap and talked while he was driving the lap, and he goes on a big cheerio to Alain Prost. You find that on YouTube.
Yeah, okay.
And it was like, whoa, what's happened here? And that's when we sort of got wind of. It wasn't until after he died that we found out about this kiss and making up over that winter. That Senna was just constantly ringing him up in the middle of the night. And because he was a very intense person, Ayrton Senna. He was a very intense person. It was just so, deep-minded about so many things, and
It's interesting though when you talk about those rivals. It's the exact same thing to a degree with Rainey and Schwantz. They hated each other, and then Rainey got injured, couldn't ride anymore, and then Schwantz, they rekindled again, but he lost his love for motorcycle racing because he didn't have that person to beat. He didn't have that barometer.
Some people like that. You've seen Lewis when he gets angry, when something's going against him, he just finds his fire, and
it's like Michael Jordan. He had to have an enemy.
Had
to have an enemy.
That's the best example.
It is, yeah.
That was the best. If you're pissing them off, don't piss these people off. Yeah. You're going to piss these. Marquez is the same.
Yeah. Lance Armstrong was famous as that in the peloton. He goes, this guy fucking said something about me in the media. He was just making it up in his head, chasing him on the mountain. And then in the end, it's crossover the line. He goes, that never actually happened. It's amazing. But it's just it's a killer attitude that you see in top sportsmen. And you see it everywhere.
That's what separates it.
Yeah. And you see it in Max. You see it in Hamilton,
100%. And that's why, going back to the MotoGP, I haven't seen all of it, but that video some doco Ducati did, and Todd Dotz, he's getting stuck into Pecco. You're too much. You're too nice. You're too nice. What are you doing? I haven't seen it, but I've heard enough to think, okay, he's having a go at him. It was the sprint race.
It was interesting.
Thailand
and that's where
race.
Marquez is going to kick him up the arse as well.
Yeah, that's how it looks. You're right. It does, because Pecco's just, and the big, to his credit as well, like he said, when all that happened with Valencia and the floods, he was the first one. He was going for the championship. I'm not going. It's wrong. They're all trying to make it happen. Oh, no, we'll still go there. This is when the news broke. He just came. He's the world champion, coming straight out. I'm not going.
Can you believe that happened? Actually, like think about that. The championship was going down to the wire,
and he said, "I don't care if I lose the championship."
And then the floods happened at the track, or that obviously the whole area, and then they had to move. Like they're gonna make a movie about that one day.
It's amazing though what Bagnaia said.
Yeah.
Well, this is back to his character. This is just who he is.
It's cool. I got a lot of respect for him.
I same, and he was copping a bit of shit because remember at the last race, he's going to back them all up, and like Lorenzo did, or whatever in that 2015 famous season.
Yeah, Lorenzo did. Yeah,
but it's not his way.
But he stayed on the podium and like stood there, clapped Jorge Martin. Like he would have been hating it, but he showed the respect.
Well, at the end of the day, he realised he got beat by the better man on the day or the year, and then he realised also since acknowledged I've made too many mistakes. 11 wins, but then 5 DNFs on a Sunday. I think it was, Tom.
Yep.
But this is who he is, and I get Tardozzi, but Tozzi's from the other side. He was a killer when he rode superbikes and stuff.
Yeah, and he's a killer team manager.
Well, that's why. That's why he's in the role.
You know what's funny talking about that? I read an article today. Casey said Casey Stoner between the Marc Marquez Valentino Rossi rivalry. He said the issue he has is with Valentino's the one that started it, and he said he shouldn't have poked the bear because he should have been smart enough to know that Marc Marquez was going to bite back hard. He said it worked back, in the early days against Sete Gibernau, Max Biaggi, and all those riders.
All those guys.
But Marc Marquez, he said he's just going to bite back twice as hard, and he's older. Well, if he didn't poke the bear, maybe
I would have thought at the time watching it, I thought, well, gee, and we're all Rossi fans, but I thought this is silly from you, mate, because you didn't learn from Lorenzo, because you tried it on Lorenzo, and Lorenzo's like, nah, mate, I've got my own
titles.
I've got my own identity too, because that's just how Rossi, it was all psychological. And Prost was the same, and these greats, they know how. Nico Rosberg told this story back to that Monaco pole position. The Mercedes team had a toilet at the garage down in the pits. This is the tight pits in Monaco. And he was waiting to go to the toilet, and he said Michael was in there for like 40 minutes.
What was he doing?
No. The point of it was he was doing nothing. But he deliberately stayed in there, knowing Nico was outside waiting to get in, to make him all jittery, and it worked.
That's ridiculous. No phone back then as well. You got to just raw dog a toilet for 40 minutes.
Nico used to have a podcast about 4 or 5 years ago during COVID.
Yeah, I remember. COVID. Yeah, it was good.
And he had Briatore.
I like his coverage. It's really good.
He told that story on there.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, I was just waiting. He goes, I was waiting and waiting, and he stood. The fact that he stood there, because it became a battle of the minds. So again, just little. These are the things, and that's everyone's talking about Marquez. I'll wait till he starts turning the screws, because there'll be little tricks. I don't know what they are. I mean, we can only assume, but there'll be little things that'll go on inside that Ducati garage.
I reckon it's already started.
Well, look. We all watched the launch there. That was a great interview by Gavin Emma. He did an amazing job. I thought us really good questions. He's amazing. He really is.
And they answered pretty, Marquez answered honestly. Collisions happen. They shouldn't happen, but they're gonna happen, or they can happen. And he spoke really candidly about that, it wasn't the same sort of just general questions you always hear after the other. How's the year going to go?
I've got to ask about Portimao. That's what you want from a journey. You want. Ask the hard stuff.
Yeah,
Come
he's
on.
good. He's a great journalist.
Not there lick ass and, have good
That's what people respect, what the fans respect. And then he's going to end up liking them anyway, because you want to see someone real.
Yeah, exactly. Back to Rosberg. How's his last two teammates, Michael Schumacher and Hamilton?
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
It's pretty incredible. It is.
Yeah.
He's still got a championship out of it, though.
He'll always have that as well.
And at the time, it wasn't respected. Okay? At the time, it wasn't. Because everyone thought, Lewis had this DNF at Malaysia, it would have changed everything, which probably would have. But since... Bottas, now Russell, you think, you know what, Nico, he was fast. He's been proven to be the only guy that could take it to Lewis. And that year he won that championship. He won 8 races in a row. Yep. He won the last 4 from the previous year and the first 5 from the... Think about it. 8 straight wins against Lewis Hamilton in the same car.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. He's very underrated. It's very underrated, Rosberg. Very underrated. Because he was so much closer to Hamilton than what Bottas was to Hamilton.
Well, everyone thought Bottas was going to be better than Nico. And then straight away, hang on a minute. Yeah. And that's what I've said. Since time has passed, Nico's got more and more respect. Mate, look what he did. He took that title, that one, of all those years that Lewis won those championships, there's that one that he didn't. And it's because Nico, got the better of him in his own way,
God, F1 this year is going to be insane. I just can't believe we're going to be sitting there on the Sunday and we're going to see Hamilton and Leclerc. We've got, Max. You're going to have both the McLarens coming through. I mean, it's just going to be incredible.
And your mate, Kimi.
Yeah, Antonelli.
Little Antonelli coming in the Mercedes.
Yeah, it's going to be another aspect.
What a great thing that's going to be.
You know what's going into next year? It's going to be the first year in a very long time for me that I can go, I really couldn't care who wins. I think everyone's had enough success.
And I'll tell you why you're saying that, because we've gone from having 2.5 years of one person making a mockery of the sport, which is how good he is.
Yep.
And we're not knocking him. That's just who this guy is. He's so far above everyone else. That's my view. He is. To now, my God, look at these races. We don't know who's going to win. And that's what we're wanting, more of that. And that's why, I don't care who it is, because we can't say for certain which one is it going to be. So,
and we'll see. What I'm excited about, see if Red Bull can turn it around in their design team without Adrian Newey. That's going to be another aspect for me I'm excited about.
Yeah.
So Australia Day, boys.
Yeah.
Pretty cool,
We've had a pretty rich history in motorsport over the years, being Australian. We've had... F1 world champions, Alan Jones. We've had MotoGP world champions, Mick Doohan,
Gardner, Casey Stoner. What's next? Piastri looks like the man to take the throne.
Yep.
Jack Doohan, we'll see how he goes. It's looking pretty shaky for him, unfortunately. Very a lot of pressure going into the first half of the season.
Yeah, can't see him surviving, but, you know.
And then Jack Miller could be. He's got a 2-year deal, James, or 1 year? 1 year deal. Could be the last. Could be the last hurrah for him.
It's pretty amazing though. Like we spoke about it a little bit last week on the talent Australia does produce. Like I had to do something for work today, and it was going through a lot of motorcycle riders, all Australian, and like there's that many world titles in there from like motocross, supercross, speedway, world superbikes,
Dakar.
MotoGP, Dakar, Des Nations, 6 days. Like there is a lot of for such a small population, and if people are listening outside of Australia, like the actual motorcycle community is tiny. So to then get that talent out to overseas is another massive step again with almost no budget. You know, famously Casey Stoner remortgaged his house to go overseas.
Well, his parents did.
His parents did. 12-year-old Casey, maybe not.
Oh, exactly right. There's been so many sacrifices. I think I don't think Piastri and Doohan have made the same sacrifice as Mr. Brighton boy and Mr. 5-time world champion boy.
But look, just on the Piastri thing, like, okay, Danny Rick, he had the Red Bull program, so that he had the leg up there. But how Piastri has gone into Formula One is astonishing.
It's a great
really
call.
is. You know, he did his junior career, obviously go-karts and at Port Melbourne and stuff, but to get into the Premier team in F3, which is a big coup, right? And then to win the championship, well, that's straight away payday for him.
100%.
Not as in money, but the fact he's had that path.
Yeah, but money helps though, Mark. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
money
I
helps.
hear you.
Yeah.
But
You can't get into Formula One without money.
No,
it's just
not anymore.
that's
obviously it's helped Mark Webb. Mark Webb is his manager, another Australian.
Yeah.
So that's because he's opened some doors for him as well. But you've got to have not just the backing, but the talent to back the backing to say, no, I can do this. And he was doing it.
And what an unusual personality he's got. It's just not...
He's very,
He's always dorky, isn't he? Like
well, he comes across dorky, but I just think he's just got this... You know, you're not going to... He's never going to do a handstand on the podium because he's won the world championship. He was just like...
He'll just put his hands up.
He will. He's just nonchalant is the word I'm looking for.
Nonchalant, that's a great
obviously
word.
it works though. You know, maybe he's just cool, calm, collected under the helmet where, you know... People like Charles gets in his own head, or Lando, and that could be the difference.
He's one of these young drivers that the other ones don't know how to take him. Well,
but you can't read him.
That's his massive advantage. You're right. You know, a Max or even someone like a Max is going, well, you know, how do I rattle this kid?
True.
You know, because he's just like, because what was that one in Abu Dhabi? Because Max got a penalty for holding him up. It's like, yeah, not bad. You know, overdue for the world champ. He just made some off the cuff comment about it while he was driving around.
It's a hint of autism, I reckon. It's a hint of autism.
Yeah. But like, surely the mum used olive oil back growing up. Like she wouldn't have been using the vegetable oil. So,
True.
So that's a bit of like, could have been Teflon. I don't know. Who knows?
They don't have filtered water or something like that in Brighton.
Yeah.
Have lots of cordial.
Yeah, cordial. Maybe it's a cordial kid.
He's a cordial soy boy. He's a soy boy.
Yeah, actually, that's probably it. Just soy boy.
Soy boy.
It's Brighton. They're all. I would like to live there, though. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, bloody oath. But yeah, Casey Stoner, he's always renowned to be probably the most talented rider a lot of people have ever seen.
I think everyone we've ever spoken to said Casey Stoner's talent's been unmatched.
Oh, 100%. And look, it just
raw talent.
Obviously, he started so young, but just everyone was shocked he retired so early.
Yeah.
You know, 29.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But having said that, he's come from the country boy. You know, had enough of that life. Period.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all it was.
And he hated the fame of it.
Yeah.
That's fair
It's
enough.
not for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Max hates
that'd be
it.
hard. It'd be hard. You know, you can eat it up and make it a business like Valentino or your Casey Stoner.
I think that's the only, I'm not going to say regret, but like the thought of 2013 of him and Marquez in the same team.
I know.
Because that's what it was looking like. You know, just what, I mean.
It's a sliding doors moment though. Like
of course it was.
You've got Mick Doohan and Valentino.
Yeah, that too. There's another one.
You know,
that's another one.
There's just two generations to then another 2 generations.
Yeah, but again, that was Mick's unfortunate accident
Yeah.
that stopped that, because that was on the cards. They were going to be teammates. It was talked up that he was coming in that following year, and then it just so happened that Mick
Hurt himself.
he was done. He was done because that was another prospering, this young rookie, Rossi, against this, Aussie blokes 1-5 on the trot. But I think, given how, that's the thing, how talented Casey is, or was, and the way Marquez approached, because they had two different approaches. This is the thing, which would have made for an amazing...
Similar riding styles, though, which probably helped Honda so much.
Yeah.
Well, we keep seeing it every year, don't we? They keep doing that rerun at Phillip Island through Stoner Corner. They showed Stoner 10 years ago, then they show Marquez. And, doing exactly the same. And, I think I heard an article where Marquez said, he goes, I want to look at Casey's data and see how he did it, so I want to copy that. And he has.
Yeah, he hasn't he? Yeah, Casey was amazing. And, the talk of him, even when he was a kid, it was huge just through the industry and through the racing in Australia. They kind of always knew.
I think the other thing that adds to his legend status is the fact that, once he got off that Ducati and then went to the Honda, and then nobody could ride that bike.
Yeah.
Nobody could ride that Ducati. That made him wow.
Well, that's true.
Rossi went there. Whoever went there could not ride that bike.
Well, Rossi took his seat.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, that adds to his status even more. Not just the fact he won 2 championships, 2 different manufacturers, which was a feat in itself. But
if he was on a Honda from 2009, he would have won more titles.
Yeah.
He would have won more titles.
Yeah.
He just jumped off too late.
Yeah. But for me, it was like watching him win on that Ducati. Yeah. And again, first world champion for Ducati. Come on. Yeah.
Huge.
How huge is that?
And no one saw it coming.
I remember going to the Ducati factory because I went to Mugello, and for the day I went up on the Saturday morning up to Bologna, and when I got there, outside the entrance, and people will see it when who've already been, but there's a billboard on the right hand wall, and I looked up and there was a picture of him on the Ducati, and the caption was "Welcome to the Stoner Age." And I just stood there and go, "Fuck, that's a fucking Aussie."
I know.
In downtown Wogland here, just taking all before him. And I was like this, I was like proud and I was like, I got chills. I'm like, look at that. This kid from Outback, wherever, I shouldn't say that, but I'm like, that was the billboard. Welcome to the Stoner Age. And I'm like, that's an Aussie kid.
That's awesome.
But isn't it crazy? Australia's got such a tie with Ducati. Casey, Troy Bayliss, huge with Ducati, does all their events. Troy Corsa won a title with him. Obviously Jack rode for factory Ducati and Pramac with him for 4 years. There's such a big tie there. It's just a weird match made in heaven that kind of works.
Well, we mentioned this, didn't we talk about how the Europeans are very jockey size, and we're talking about the Aussies more robust. In case he goes against that, he's more the European jockey type, but I think it's the Australian attitude that what they saw in Casey, and then with the superbike riders before then, going back to the late 90s of Corsa and Bayliss, that, they're matching up there, and that's why they took Miller on. And I said, Miller, if you look back, when they signed Miller, the factory team from Pramac, he was supposed to be the guy that was going to lead them to the promised land, and Pecco was going to be the understudy, but it turned out the other way around. But Miller was the one. That's how I remember it. Miller was the one they were like, well, he's the guy that's going to do it for us.
It's just amazing how quick it turns around in motorsport, isn't it?
What does that say, mate? You're only as good as your last race.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's the old saying, but that's the truth.
He was the talent coming through that Pramac team, won those couple of races, and then...
and through Moto 3.
Oh, yeah.
Should have won that title.
And the thing was, it's what he did in the wet. It was on his own.
That's again another Aussie thing.
Yeah, it is.
Christopher Mullen, Anthony West.
Yeah.
Well, they say that about flat track and things. You just learn now. It was amazing listening to going back to what Pecco was saying in that interview about how they were talking about Marquez at
when they were kids. Yes.
No. At last year in Spain, which is the track that Marquez won his first race on last year. Aragon. And he goes, he was out of the blocks 2 seconds faster, and then he was 8/10 ahead. Because he just knew
the dirty track.
He could see the grip. He goes, how does he do this? He goes, I'm envious of 2 things: him on a slippery surface and turning left. Yeah. And he goes, I don't know how he does it. So it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing, and just the the amount of talent that's come through like, you know, we speak about it all the time, but Jet and Hunter Lawrence dominating off-road.
That's
crazy.
Their
isn't it?
stories are incredible, and they're still going. Like
Yeah.
Jet's already a Hall of Fame rider. They've both won, I think, multiple championships. Jet's definitely won multiple.
Chad Reed.
Chad Reed, yeah.
He was I thought he was groundbreaking or pioneer.
For sure. And he
pioneer.
started in Europe and then had to go to the States with his missus. Did it really tough.
Yeah.
It's for the off-road stuff. And you got Toby Price, Daniel Sanders, that go out and win Dakar, which is one of the hardest races you're ever going to do. It's
crazy.
pretty insane. And then, you know, you've got riders like Anthony Gober, who was just a talent, just absolute talent.
Yeah.
A waste of talent.
Well,
but
just sad that he passed last year. And I remember him when he was a kid. He was just
another level.
But, you know, just got caught up in the partying too much, you know. But
also an Aussie thing to do.
Yeah, I know, but he just took it to that next level.
Yeah.
You know, he was burning the candle at both ends through his whole life, or his whole, you know, early career. But had he applied, and it's all the old way, had he applied himself in that other man, who knows how many would have won.
Well, he went to factory Suzuki, was it, for a year in GPs? He raced a year in GPs. I think it was Lucky Strike. I'm sure it was Lucky Strike.
Yep. Yeah, because it come off Kawasaki in the super bikes. Yeah, it was. You're right.
Yeah, in the 90s. So it's just, and you know, Australia in the 90s with the Americans was huge. You had Mick Doohan, Gober, Darryl Beattie.
Beattie's another one.
Who's the other
A
fella?
bit before there was Kevin McGee.
Kevin McGee,
he was
that's the
around
one.
the Gardner era.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent that's come through.
Oh, man, huge amount.
In the two wheels.
And pioneering talent as well. Like, you talk about Stoner around finding his way around Stoner Corner. Like, no one was flat through there. Yeah. Gary McCoy with spinning up the rear wheel. And they're like...
And McCoy, another one in the wet.
Yeah, they're like, what's going on? Like, they didn't understand the tyres, how he could do this. And it changed the whole thing for GP going forward. I mean... It is amazing. And yes, you're going to get thousands of these little Spanish kids come into the sport, but so excited when someone from America or Australia or
Japan.
Japan, not as much. It's lesser so. When they come into the GP circuit, because they just offer such a different attitude, and you know,
the Aussies and Americans are always the best ones to watch, I reckon.
Yeah, and the British as well. I mean, we met a couple of the young kids on last year in October, and it's exciting. It really is.
Yeah, I love it. It's very cool.
Back to the British, you know, probably since Fogarty, there's no one really...
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because of British Superbikes. That championships, and this is what Gavin Emmett said as well, it's so good it's actually bad for them. Because they all just want to race BSB, and they can make a great living out of that. Yeah. That's what they do.
They don't have to travel.
They don't have to travel. I think they do a couple rounds in Spain, maybe.
Yeah, they do. They do actually, yeah.
But, you know, it's all factory backed or it's shop backed. They can make money doing what they love. And they go through their ranks doing that. So they don't even bother going through like those little prototype Moto 3s where it's more money. You got to travel more, even though they're in England. They shouldn't be complaining about travel like us.
Yeah. And
they don't have that talent coming through.
Hot takes, Jimmy boy.
What do we got? That's Jamesy995. KTM to do a Brawn GP this season.
What a call.
Nah, different circumstances. There's no rule changes that they can compete with this year, so there's no.
Well said, Tom. That's exactly what the.
There's no seconds or a half a seconds they can find, unfortunately.
Okay,
They'll be struggling. They'll be struggling this year, and I don't see three of them out of the four of them doing anything, to be honest.
Well, that's how we're pointing to, isn't it?
Interesting. I like it. At Z_Andrew Arthur, fraud finishes higher in the championship than Pedro Acosta.
And there's absolutely no way.
Fraud.
Vinales.
Yeah.
He needs to get off the SmackDown.
You don't think that's going to happen? He's always got his believers, though. That's the thing.
Anyone who's still believing him after the back end of last year, after the way he started, just...
No. What do you think? What do you think of his mentality after the Yamaha thing?
Sometimes you see him in Parc Fermé when he's taken pole and had victories. I don't know. He just comes across. He's going on about something and he's talking about.
He's intense, I guess.
You know, and that's his character. But I don't know. It just doesn't add up sometimes.
No, I like it. Fair enough. At Jack O'Deal, BMW to make their way into MotoGP after the fall of KTM.
I think that it's coming, and I've called it early that it's going to be a VR46 bike. But it's interesting to see Toprak and Bautista talking it in testing.
Right.
There was like a little microphone somewhere, and they were like, "When are you going to MotoGP?" And he was like, "When BMW goes in." And then he goes, "Oh, watch out, the cameras are on." So I think there's something, and that's the whole thing with
something in that.
Toprak going to Beamer. There had to be some sort of promise there going into the future.
Yeah, into the new regs.
Because we know that he wants to be in MotoGP. So
he's tried. He's definitely tried.
yeah.
This is a good one. At Tom F145, Ducati Lenovo team to win every Sunday race this year.
I think so.
Just the two men in red.
If the bike's what they're saying it is, well then...
They've been right for the past few years, that's for sure.
So only Digi's got the third 25 bike.
The
That's
VR46.
it. It's amazing. He's got the third bike. I mean, I know he's shown some talent, but
He
But
deserves
look,
it.
it's just the way the cards have fallen. There were so many musical chairs last year.
yeah.
Well, Bez could have had it,
Well, as I mentioned
as
that.
you said
but
last week.
you know, the Pramac thing, and then all of a sudden, you know, VR46 ends up with a factory bike, and they've given it to a guy who 12 months earlier was out of the sport.
They don't actually have a very strong lineup, Ducati. When you look at those,
That's
six,
a hot take, bro.
no, when you look at those 6 riders, you've got the 2 guns, but realistically, Digia, yes, he's shown some talent. Morbidelli, no idea what he's going to do. Aldeguer, no idea what he was going to do. Alex Marquez is there or thereabouts. It's not a fully strong lineup.
They don't have a dedicated like Zarco developer.
I think Alex Marquez will surprise in the first part of the season.
That's what I think.
Okay, because the 25 bike might be back to what it was supposed to be last year. Because remember, the 24 was just so far in front, straight out the block. Whereas the previous years, like that's when Bastianini won those first 3-4 races in 22. It could get. I think it'll get back to that again. So don't be surprised there's an early win for Alex Marquez.
Yeah, okay, it's a good call, like a sprint race
only
win or
because
something. Yeah.
the 25's just not quite, you know, where it's going to be, you know, and that's why I think Morbidelli's a funny one. Like, there's no reason. He's on a bike he rode last year, so he should know it and know it better than the others that are getting this bike now.
He's got every excuse in the book, that fella, though.
Well, this will be the ultimate excuse.
But he was injured, and then he was fine and had the bike and did nothing.
This would be the ultimate excuse. If these other guys who are now getting on the 24, this is Marquez, Aldeguer, Furman. So, yeah, that'll be the measuring stick.
I love your pronunciation.
Yeah.
At Yanni,
Taking his Friday night out to spend the time with us, and I'm mocking him. That's so unfair, isn't it?
he'll apologise to you afterwards.
Yeah, sure he will.
At Yanni _LV.
Yanni, what's going on? We've got some bloody ethnic viewers. That's nice.
Yeah, we do. Lewis Hamilton won't finish top 5 in a championship.
Not a bad call. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent there. And a lot of fast cars. So can he qualify? That's going to be the big thing, Mark Danby.
Well, he can, but just where's that car at?
Well, who knows? They're all going to be close. That's the thing. Again, there's not a big rule change for next year. So they're going to just develop that car and all the cars in a similar way. And we'll get to a peak performance, I think, before the new rule changes come
Well, they're
through.
pretty much at the ceiling now. This is the thing about these regs. The ceiling's been reached.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. They're so fast.
And back to your point, if Red Bull just got to do a few things, they're not that far away. It's the Merc that's the inconsistent car.
Yeah, it is.
It's wins when it's not supposed to, and they don't understand why it's fast, and that's why no one's talking about Russell at the moment as being a contender. It was supposed to be McLaren and Ferrari to fight it out, and then obviously the Max factor, as you call it. But to Lewis qualify, like he really, if it is McLaren and Ferrari, is Max Verstappen not qualifying on the second row more often than not?
Well, yeah.
I don't think so.
No,
He's still minimum getting second row.
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Yeah, well, they're all going to be taking points off each other next year. That's the thing.
Yeah. But just for straight out qualifying speed, I'm talking.
Well, I think straight off qualifying speed, Max is still the best.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If McLaren and Ferrari are the supposed two standout cars, Max is still somehow finding his way onto that second road minimum.
And it's all about like straight line speed now. I mean, there's that's the next thing for next year. I mean, these DRS zones, everything that they've developed these cars into, speed down the straight. It's so important because once you get out in front, you know, it's it used to be the case you got out in front and you stay there. Now it's not the
break
case.
that toe. You got to break that 1 second DRS.
Last one, boys. 13_Big Mac. Miller's input will put Fabio back on the podium by the end of the season, which I like that call.
That happened sooner than that.
Yeah, I think I like that call as well.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
You know, 2 extra riders to help develop that Yamaha, get that V4 going.
That V4 going. We want to see that V4 up and about before we get to Europe.
100%.
Yeah. We'll see the debut in Buriram, so looking forward to it.
Oh, Buriram. It's all happening.
Yeah.
It's all happening. Come along.
Motorsport Republica
Mark's got a couple of spare
to
bedrooms in his
Motorsport
apartment.
Republic is going to Buriram.
We're going to Buriram.
It's all Buriram. Bam.
Buriram. Bam Bam.
By the end of it, he'll be the Bam Bam. He'll be the Bam Bam by the end of it.
He'll be getting boom booms. That's what's happening.
All right, guys, have a great Australia Day. We love you. We'll see you next week for the 100th episode.
Yeah, happy Australia Day.
Happy Australia Day.
100. This is a cheeseburger Lorenzo episode, by the way. 99.
Thanks, everyone.
99.
Guys.
Thanks
All
to
good.
Cheesy.
See you,
Thanks,
guys.
Mark.
See you. Bye.
Thanks, Jimmy boy.